What's up guys, Sheldon back with another review, and today we are looking at the Super Action statue Giorno Giovanna II from Jojo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5, Golden Wind or Vento Arreo. So it's strange, even though it says second over here, this is technically the third version. The second version was a Winter Festival exclusive that was also blue. It was like a darker shade of blue though, and he had white hair instead. That one was pretty popular because it was a blue color. The original one was pink, but this one is the second major release, so I'm guessing that's why it's called the second. But let's take a close look at the box though. So you can see some of the poses you can put Giorno in. Here is a visual of the accessories that Giorno comes with. So you see that it's mostly hands, the same accessories as the other figure though, or the original one. You have the display stand, a total of 3 heads, as well as a black-haired head, which we'll talk about in a bit more detail. And you can see here it just says Giorno Giovanna II, and while I'm at it, I have the original box right here. We can kind of compare. Hopefully it doesn't go out of focus. Let me see, let me get that to focus. My camera's been acting kind of strange, so kind of fiddling with it. Okay, but you see that roughly the accessories are about the same over here. Maybe the skin tone is a little lighter. I don't know if that's just lighting, or if the figure is actually a lighter skin tone, but we'll take a closer look in a second. But as you can see, that's mostly the same. But aside from that, though, here is the box art for Giorno to the side over here. Box window, as well as a reflection of my hand. Here is more box art. The top of the box, as well as the bottom. Alright, cool. So let's take a close look at the accessories. To start us off, Giorno comes with a pair of fists. He comes with a pair of relaxed hands. He also comes with a pair of these half fist hands, and these are for helping you put Giorno into some nice catboy poses. No, I'm just kidding. These are actually meant to make it look like he's holding or tugging at his collar, and so this helps him complete or make that pose in one of the panels, but you just press the hands up against the clothing to make it look like he's gripping the collar or whatnot, and you can have him also gripping the, I don't know what this is called, but like the bottom of his shirt, so he can do that well-known pose over there. But he does come with a pair of these hands over here. Giorno also comes with this gripping hand for his teacup, as well as the teacup itself, and it is removable. So as you can see over here though, they have the translucent plastic to make it look like it's actually tea. And this hand is really just a fist with the thumb and forefinger pinched, and it is removable. I just put it in here at the same time so you can see though. And on top of this, Giorno also comes with this saucer for the teacup. There's really not that much to say about it. It's just a plate, and it's just molded in white. Finally, for our hands, Giorno also comes with the gripping hand, as well as this lighter over here. I just put the lighter into the hand just so it's a little easier though. But it's a pretty standard gripping hand. It just has that like roundish shape. But yes, the lighter is removable, and it's painted in really just one color, but it's molded fairly well. So as you can see over here, there is the, I guess the kind of dots over here for like the grip of the lighter. It also has that little like flicking thing that a lighter has to help it light. And then the plastic piece itself though is a pretty nice clear plastic. It's a gradient from yellow to orange to red, so it's a pretty nice effect over here. So that pretty much does it for the hands. Aside from the hands and the lighter though, Giorno also comes with this piece of bread. And this is a plot significant device, but you can also put the lighter into the bread over here so that the lighter can just like stand up on a flat surface on its own. And the bread itself is pretty simple. It's just, I guess it's painted okay. It's a piece of bread and there's a little bit of shading, so that is kind of nice. And then on top of that, Giorno also comes with this brooch that is a ladybug. Hopefully you can see it and not have it eaten up by the meat of my thumbs. But as you can see over here, it is a ladybug, and on the back it has the pin of the needle that you would use to kind of pin it onto yourself. So that's kind of cool. And then aside from those accessories though, Giorno also comes with an interchangeable head. So let's take a look at this one first. So we have the yelling face over here, pretty standard for JoJo figures. Let me see if I can get that to focus a little better. And let me pull in. Let's see. Alright, so overall painted pretty well. I believe the color is a little off. I think it's just because of the lighting in my room. But let me see, let me peek over the camera. Okay, he's showing up a little orange. in my camera, but he's actually not orange. He's actually like a lighter skin tone, maybe as you'll see when I pull out though. But overall, painted pretty cleanly. The eyes are painted very, very nicely over here, especially the pupils and irises. And as you can see that the eyes are gold. The hair is sculpted pretty well. He's got his well-known donut hair, and he's got like a nice little wash in the hair, so that's nice. And on top of the yelling face, though, he also comes with this particular piece, which is exclusive to this version. So this must be like high school, middle school, emo Giorno. No, I'm just kidding. So in the story, though, Giorno's hair used to be brown or black, and then it turns gold. And again, I won't spoil it for you for why, but this is supposed to be that original head, and I believe before he went by Giorno, he also went by Haruno Shiobana? I forget. I kind of forget, so I'll have to read it again. And while we're here, actually, let me see. Does his face shape change, actually? His nose looks kind of wider in this one. I guess not, it's the same face. Huh, it's kind of interesting how much some hair can change your appearance, though, because his nose just looks longer than his nose here. Or maybe it is. I don't know, maybe you can tell me. Okay, so that pretty much does it for the head, though. Let me just give you a 360 so you can get a better look. And so aside from the heads and accessories, Giorno also comes with this instruction manual that will just tell you the basics of the articulation over here. Pretty standard, and on top of that, like I mentioned before, Giorno also comes with the display stand, which is pretty standard for most Jojo figures, as well as the arm for the display stand. So you just plug in the short part into that hole, and then you have your display stand, and furthermore, you can also detach these, and then also put two of these pieces with the peg holes in them, so you can have two, I guess, arms to one base. Okay, so that pretty much does it for the accessories. Let's go ahead and take a look at Giorno's articulation. Alright, so Giorno has some pretty standard articulation for Super Action Statue. Let me just get this to focus a little bit better. Okay, so Giorno does have his head on that hinged joint over here, so it is on that ball, so you do get full 360. Here is the head looking forward with only the swivel. Here it is looking back with only the swivel, and then the neck itself, the base is on a ball socket, so you get some, like, barely any side to side, but you can technically also swivel it as well. You just have to kind of pinch it to get in there. Let me just show you like this. So you get pretty decent range of motion. Here it is going forward, here it is going back, and then when combined, you get some pretty good range of motion looking down at his shoes. And decent going up. Again, despite the ponytail, it is actually not bad. Okay, for the arms though, you get a little bit greater than the 90 degrees, which is pretty good. And then the shoulder pads do swivel as well, so you just move them as you rotate, and you can technically get them through 360. I'm not going to do it though, because it does tend to get a little harder as you kind of go into the more extreme angles, but it is technically there. And then this ball peg over here goes into the bicep and the forearm, so you don't have a bicep swivel, but you can swivel at the shoulder itself. I would have personally preferred an actual bicep swivel, but again, personal preference. So you get the swivel at the shoulder. Double jointed elbows, pretty good range of motion over here, pegged into the bicep, pegged into the forearm, so you also swivel at the elbow itself. Do be careful though, the elbow pad comes up kind of high, so if you're not careful and you're swiveling it, it might run into this particular part of the sculpt and kind of pop and fly off. But you can also swivel at the forearm. The wrist over here, it is the ball peg, so it swivels, and it can technically rotate as well, as you can kind of see over here, so you get some pretty good angles. The sleeve is kind of sculpted far down though, so it does kind of hinder the articulation a little bit, so be wary of that, but technically it is in there. For the abs, you have the socket right here, so here it is going back, here it is going forward. You do get a little bit of gapping, which is unfortunate, but here is it for swivel, pretty good. Oddly enough, these figures all tend to go further back than they go forward. I don't know why that is. And then for the waist, you do only get a swivel here, so pretty good range of motion. Looks like you can probably do 360, maybe not, but you can get him all the way to the side. That's pretty good actually. For the hips, you have simple ball sockets over here. They're kind of hidden deep inside this skirt, and it does come down kind of far. but it is soft, so you can get the leg to come out about 90 degrees. Pretty good. Here it is going backwards. Again, not bad, again, all things considered. To the side, not that much for, again, because it's a socket and because of this plastic over here. You do get a thigh swivel, so that's also pretty good. And you also get some pretty decent knee articulation over here. Double jointed, pretty good. Looks pretty nice. And then for the ankles, here it is going back, here it is going forward, and you have a toe hinge that's pretty loose, so it's not going to be that useful. And for the ankle, you get it to rock about that much, which is actually not bad. And the bottom of the pants are also soft, so the articulation for the ankles is actually pretty decent, for all things considered. So that pretty much does it for the articulation, though. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at the finer details of the figure. I just want to give you a view of the back in case you're curious, but let's go ahead and take a look at the finer details as well as do it as a size comparison. Alright, so Giorno stands with his feet together and slightly leaned up against the wall about, a little under 6 inches over here, which comes out to be about 15 centimeters, so pretty standard for super action statue nowadays, on the smaller side overall compared to like Battle Tendency, but a pretty good size. And here's Giorno next to the rest of the members of Passion. Couldn't do a review on Giorno without kind of busting out the rest of his gang over here though. But here's Abaccio with an A on his belt in case he forgets how to spell his name. Here's Mista with a shirt that's like 2 sizes too small because he forgets how to dress himself. Fugo with his ugly Swiss cheese suit, and then you have Bucciarati with so many zippers in case he needs to get out of his clothes right away. But overall, scale's pretty good. Abaccio, I believe, is supposed to be the tallest, and in fact he is. And Arancia is actually smaller than Trish, but Giorno scales pretty well, I believe. Again, Giorno is supposed to be on the smaller side, so it works fairly well, but again, smaller than Bucciarati, about the same size as Mista, just barely. Let's do a side-by-side of different characters though. So here he is next to Fugo, and looks like he's about the same height over here. You can obviously tell that Abaccio is taller than Giorno. And then Arancia is pretty small, which is pretty accurate again from the comics. His head's pretty large though, so I don't know what to say about that. And then here he is next to Trish. Here is Giorno also next to Diavolo. And Diavolo is, let's see, a little taller. Actually pretty tall. His shoulders are about Giorno's head, or shoulders are at Giorno's head. And it looks like he's comparable to Abaccio over here. So pretty good size. The big bad typically is supposed to be a bit larger anyway though, so that's pretty good. Alright, so that pretty much does it for the size comparison, and while we are comparing figures, let's go ahead and take a look at the original figure over here. So for the most part, again, essentially the same figure. I'm peering over the top of my camera over here. Let me kind of pull in. Alright, so I'm peering over my camera just to make sure, but the new Giorno does actually have a lighter skin tone than the original Giorno over here. He is definitely a bit more tan, there's a bit more shading over here. Whereas his is lighter. But for the most part, they're essentially the same figure aside from the paint, actually. So I believe Pink Giorno shows up mostly in like concept artwork and things of that sort. And I think Blue Giorno, in my head, he was blue, and like they did kind of like new digital scans, and Giorno has been blue. But both colors, I would say, could actually be the canon color, but I think it's actually typically blue. So the ladybugs are red instead of green here, and I gotta have to say though, when I compare the red and green ladybug, I do like this nice winter mint green. It's pretty cool. Aside from that though, the checkers on the back, so the checkers here are black, but the new version has, I believe, blue over here, and as you can kind of tell, they are actually glossy, so that's a nice difference. And aside from that though, in terms of sculpt, old Giorno's torso is actually flush with this piece over here, which is actually a floating piece. It moves independently of this piece and the crotch over here, but it's completely flush. Whereas this one actually goes into that skirt a little bit. And I'm pretty sure that's not supposed to be the case. It should be flush like the original. And the only reason I can think they did that though is because, as you can see, the waist is not exactly round, it's pointed. So like if it's not sculpted or put together properly, if it points out too much, it can bump up against this ladybug and actually like push it off. I've actually seen figures like that and heard about that happening. So maybe that's why. So it's just like farther in enough where that particular problem doesn't happen. But aside from that, it's pretty much the same figure. So in terms of which one between the two is better, they're pretty much the same. Pink Giorno, it's cheaper though. I'm going to have to say that. I believe this one was like close to 60. I don't know. This one was like 3,800 yen when I got it. Maybe like 40 something, and this one came out to be like 5,500, so it's about 50 bucks. This one's about 40, and I don't really know why, to be honest, because it's the same sculpt. Maybe it's the paint. He does come with this extra head accessory, so maybe that's the thing that makes it cost more. I don't know, but I would say if the color doesn't bother you that much, go for the original because the price is better. If you're kind of into the blue Giorno like I am, go for the blue Giorno. Just know that it's going to be a bit more expensive. So in terms of whether or not I recommend it, if you're a Jojo fan, I feel like it's pretty easy to say yes, this is Giorno, and then it's one of the protagonists of the one of the most popular parts. So yeah, definitely, again, be wary of the price. But for what you get, it's decent. It is expensive. If you're not a fan of Jojo, though, I would say this figure is fairly interesting in the design. It's painted and sculpted very nicely. Overall, it is a single color, so maybe it's not the most exciting figure compared to, say, a stand, which is generally more exciting, but it's a pretty solid figure overall, though. Okay, so that pretty much does it for my review. If you enjoyed, feel free to give me a thumbs up and subscribe for more. I'll put Giorno in a few poses for you all at the end over here, but yeah, thanks for watching.